So when it came up for sale, they were like, heck yeah.
flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Call this meeting this Tuesday, November 14th, 2023 meeting to order. Record show that Mr. Broom will not be present today, and some things come up. It's that time of year. So I will make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Chair will make a motion to approve the consent agenda A through I.
Second.
Motion is second. Looking on here, there's really nothing that needs explained, I don't think. So any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, so now we will have public comments. Public comment is for anyone that wants to discuss anything that's going on for the county. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name and where you live. Anybody have any discussion? Allison?
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to make a public statement this morning about some of the issues facing our election department. It is your job to make sure that we have free and fair elections in Moffat County. One member of my family went to vote. She didn't have her ballot. I said, that's okay. Go in and ask for a paper ballot. You can still vote. So she came in, she asked for a paper ballot, and the judges made her feel like it was going to be so difficult for them and put them out and inconvenience them. And so they coerced her into voting on a machine. She told me that she was surprised that they would discourage in any way a young person exercising their right to vote. Commissioner Broom specifically has stated in meetings that we had, he said if he wanted to vote on a voting machine, he had every right to do so. We the people have the right to ask for a paper ballot without getting the runaround or to be made to feel like we are inconveniencing people to do so. If these judges have a problem with people asking for a paper ballot to vote on, they need to be removed. When I was a poll watcher at the last election, I witnessed the exact same behavior from the exact same people. So if Commissioner Broom has the right to vote exactly the way he wishes on a machine, then we, the people of Moffat County, also have the right to ask for a paper ballot without getting the runaround and made to feel like we are a problem. This is not, to me, being free and fair election. This is being coerced, and that is literally against the law. Let me read to you what it says on the ballot that she didn't have with her at the time. Warning, any person who, by use of force or other means, unduly influences an eligible elector to vote in any particular manner or to refrain from voting, or who falsely makes, alters, forges, counterfeits any ballot before or after it has been cast, or who destroys, defaces, mutilates, or tampers with the ballot is subject upon conviction to imprisonment or to a fine or both. And that is a statute here on the ballot. The other thing is that we came to you, commissioners, telling you when we saw the layout of this building, how the election department was not going to be very good for a voting or polling place. It was going to be hard for observing, for video surveillance, and for chain of custody actually to be held on these ballots. I think it was painfully obvious from what I saw and what other people saw during this election that the election department is not up to par for being in compliance with statutes. And just for good measure, I'll say again, it's been proven that voting machines can be hacked and votes can be changed in the blink of an eye. That's all the time it takes. We need to get rid of voting machines in Moffett County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else that would like to have any general discussion concerning anything going on in the county at this particular time? Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Move on to general discussion.
Yeah, I just want to share that while Prop HH was voted down in the state, that the governor has called a special session to kind of work around that vote. So that's coming up. We've got a meeting on Thursday with CCI that we'll know some more, and then we'll be actively involved with what's going on in that special session, that 3-day session. But I wanted to bring that up in public.
And hopefully our representatives will stand with the people of what they voted. So
Across the
that's-
state.
Yep, that's what and I think CCI feels the same way.
Mhm.
AG&C feels the same way. So.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. I think all I would say on general discussion is it's always a good, Saturday, we honored all our veterans and appreciate everybody that has served and is serving. It's always a big deal. So, all right. First on the agenda is Mr. Dan Miller, Road and Bridge Department on a culvert bid recommendation.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
So on October 19th, we opened bid for culvert pipe. We received 2 bids, one from Craig Steel in the amount of $214,819. The other was from Skyline Steel in Penrose, Colorado for $64,059.25. Our budget was $25,000 for our culvert, leaving us $39,059.25 over budget. The overage is due in part to the large number of culverts we had to replace this year from the high
Spring.
runoff in the spring. And also culvert prices have more than doubled in the last 2 years. But I'd like to take, we need the culverts, so I'd like to transfer some funds from some other budget line items that are under budget for the year to make up the shortage. We can use $26,038 left over from highway painting, $11,000 from the non-capital asphalt line item, and $2,300 from the bridge repair line item. This leaves us $278.75 to buy culvert bolts, which we're short on also. I recommend we accept the bid of $64,059.25 from Skyline Steel. Thank you.
And why is there such a huge discrepancy?
I don't know. I asked folks over Craig Steel and he said that frankly, he was embarrassed to submit this, but he did, but I'm gonna go talk to him about it after the fact.
Yeah,
There's something wrong there.
yeah, maybe he got some that are dipped in gold.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, usually it's not that far off, right?
Right. No, they're usually the low bid or real close.
Yeah, and we try to do our best to shop local, but you can't justify $150,000 to shop local to do that. You just can't do it.
The lady at Penrose Pipes, real nice lady, she told me that part of the trouble was that Penrose Pipe or Skyline Steel stocks miles of pipe where Craig Steel doesn't. That's part of
probably
it,
part of
not
it.
all of it.
So is that 64,000 including trucking to get it here?
Yes,
Oh.
absolutely.
All right. You got any questions?
I don't. You can just, on that, moving stuff around, we'll put that in the last supplemental of the year to be
Yeah.
able to cover that.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, I would move to recommend accepting the bid with Skyline Steel for $64,059.25.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Good. Thanks, Dan. All right, next on the agenda is Todd Wheeler, Office of Emergency Management. On a bid recommendation.
Good morning. In October 16th, the county went out to bid to purchase 20 more of the automated external defibrillator units to round out the county buildings and patrol deputies to have the AD units on hand for the public in a case of a life emergency. When it went out for bid, we received 7 bids back, ranging anywhere from 29,000 to 59,000. Looking at the local or the in-state of Colorado bids received, it ranged anywhere from 36,000 to 59,000. Making a recommendation that we go with the AED Everywhere company out of Fort Collins for $36,300. This is $1,300 over the original estimated or original budget for the AEDs, but I will be able to cover that out of my budget to make up for that additional $1,300, which with the price increases, we are expecting a slight increase, but not quite that much. But ask that the commissioners approve the $36,300.
Any questions?
No.
Why, so what's wrong with the master medical equipment?
Master medical equipment out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
We were trying to stay
They
within.
call her?
They also did not have the full bid packet. They left some of the items
gotcha.
out.
Okay.
Along with like Technology International. They were the low bidder, but they only bid for the AED units. They did not count for any of the cases, any of the cabinets.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the AED Everywhere bid for $36,300.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir.
Thank you.
All right. Number 3 on the agenda is Office of Development Services, Neil Binder, on a change order number 9, final settlement letters for United Companies for the new courthouse parking lot, and asphalt paving, and McKinstry for the courthouse solar field.
Good morning, commissioners.
Is your cohort on or?
I believe, no, he is not right now.
Alright.
I am here.
Oh,
He's
he is
there.
here.
We can
Yeah,
hear.
I'm here.
There we go.
Hey, Roy, you have to
Yeah.
talk as least amount as you can because we're not paying you all this money to be on this Zoom call.
All right, we'll be quick.
So you have in front of you, a final change order, number 9, for BHI. Again, I want to emphasize that it is the final change order. There were several items in there, 2 of which are a little bit higher in dollar figures, but they weren't an afterthought by any means. They were items that were still in the design process when we went into contract. So like change order number 122, the monument sign, which is our entrance sign, that was still in the design process when we went under the contract. And so there's a lot of concrete in that thing. And that's where a lot of those dollars are, along with the change order number 124. That's all concrete, used the same company, I'm sorry, the dollar figure per cubic yard was used for both projects. So we were able to tie those into one, save us a couple extra dollars there. So those are the two larger items, and then the other ones are pretty straightforward. The exhaust fans, we chose to go with new since we were trying to make like new in this building. That's the reason for that. If you see the very last change order, the HVAC drain pans, I believe, Ms. Villard, you are privy to the snow that was blowing into the HVAC ducts, and it was melting once it got inside the building and damaging our tiles. So that was the reason for that one. Other ones were pretty small items, just needed changes as we went through the building. So that, I asked for approval on that. The second and third items are final payments for two projects that have been completed and signed off on, the solar field being one of them. We posted for that final payment on November 3rd and November 10th. Contract amount was $803,617.38. Completed to date is $738,767.68. We had an unused contingency of $64,849.70. And rounding out, our final payment is $12,682.46, and the retainage of $33,818.38, which is a total due of $46,508.84. That is one that we are asking to have final payment done on. And the second one is to the United Companies that did the asphalt paving in the parking lot. We advertised on October 20th and October 27th. And the original contract amount was $795,842. The surveying was $7,280, and completed to date is $969,229.30, with a difference of $173,387.30 for a final payment of $68,393.30. So that is the final item that I asked for approval on today. Thank you.
And the final,
I noticed on that change order that that document isn't the correct updated document. Your change order amount should be $152,154.79. There's an item missing on the one that I saw on the screen.
for United or for which one?
No, for the change order 9 for BHI.
Oh, okay.
What was the addition
So you're
152.
missing,
of the total?
yeah, you're missing PCO 122, the monument sign, which was 75,680. Which makes that total change order 152, 154 and 79 cents.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for clarification there.
Anything else, Roy? You good?
No, we're good.
So we'll take these one at a time?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve change order, the final change order number 9 in the amount of $152,154.79 as presented.
Second. Any further discussion?
Nice to
Yeah.
be wrapping up the project.
Yeah,
Finally getting there.
getting there.
I do want to note also, through the whole budgeting, we were hoping to be able to save around 2 million for that demolition project, and we are still under that. Just for clarification there, that we've still got sufficient funds for that. So
Good.
That is good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the final settlement letter with United Companies for the parking lot in the total amount of $68,393.30.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I will say that, sure glad we did that. I'm sure glad we didn't postpone the parking lot.
Right.
That's make a big difference.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the final settlement letter for McKinstry in the amount of $46,500.84 for our courthouse solar field.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roy.
Roy, are you still there?
Yes, sir. I'm still here.
All right. I was thinking that he might want to help Rachel with his next conversation. It's his idea.
I can do that.
Number 4, we have Rachel Bauer with Human Resources Department. The consideration approval to add 3 facility custodial building maintenance technicians positions.
Long name.
Yeah.
So I would like to request consideration due to our cleaning contract expiring in December. We would like to request to add 3 full-time facilities custodial building maintenance technician positions. They will be doing cleaning and then also building maintenance for all county buildings, this courthouse, also for Road and Bridge, and then the Public Safety Center. So it will also include for landscaping and cleaning for various things, and then also for filling in for other duties for facilities if needed. So we do have budgeted costs for 2024 for the 3 full-time positions. For the full-time wages, it would be about $137,280 overall for 2024. And then for the estimated fringe benefit costs, that would be about $99,021.55. So that would be for medical benefits, work comp, and other employer costs there. And then we would have some savings for retirement, just due to our policy as far as not being able to get on the retirement for 1 year. So there is some overall savings there. The total overall cost for 2024 would be about $236,301.55 for the 3 requested vacant positions. We would like to fill one soon here in beginning of December. That way we can get somebody hired on and get them trained and show them, everything as far as like job duties and stuff. And then the other 2 would be posted to be hired 2024, beginning probably January. So I would like to request that for facilities department.
Okay.
And I do have a new job description as well for this position. For the 3.
So I think for clarification, we've had, we bid this out at the beginning, have 2 contractors that do both sides, and it's just not meeting the needs. So instead of having someone work all night, this would be somebody that comes, a couple people come real early in the morning, maybe one comes later and stays after closing time. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, it'd be during the daytime.
During the daytime, but somebody will be here a couple hours before it opens and somebody will be here a couple hours after to make sure we touch up and do those things.
Correct. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
So,
All right.
Commissioners, the only thing I have to add is,
He is here.
we're currently, our contracts are $150,000 a year just on the courthouse building. And when you add
Each?
the bridge and the safety center in there, you're about $170,000 that we're spending now in contractors. So some of that increase in budget, it's already there. It's already covered.
Gotcha.
We just transfer where we're paying it from. And then we have the ability to have the building cleaned while people are actually using it too. Somebody walks through with mud or whatever, or if a bathroom has an issue, we're not pulling maintenance away from other things that they're working on.
Right, and clean up outside and stuff, or just to fill in for building maintenance for the daytime too, if needed for facilities department.
Yeah, and, you know, Neil and, Barry, we could have this conversation later. But I want to make sure that if we hire these three people, they have what, 4 people that clean the building at night. I think on 2 on each side roughly. And they're not maybe making that deal. If we pull these people to go to Loudy Simpson or to go to Maybell Park or to go to Sunset Meadows, we're gonna be in the same boat. So we need to make sure that, you know, if 4 of them are not getting it done now, we need to make sure that these 3 are very focused on what we are in here, you know, and it should free up maintenance to not have to change a light bulb in here. They'll be able to go do those other things, not to have to do the little things that are in there. So I think it's, people management is going to be a big deal here. And I just hate to hire 3 other people and then turn around and they're mowing the soccer fields in there and this isn't getting clean. So 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that is the main issue there is we're not seeing the day-to-day during the day.
Yeah.
It should be because our people of Moffett County expect that of a new building.
Yep, I agree. Okay.
So the motion on this is approving the add the 3 new positions. Is that correct?
Yep.
And do we need a separate motion to allow for one of them in 2023?
I think you could make it as presented today.
Okay. All right. With that.
I mean, the chances of it getting right, we're
to
hoping,
post it,
right?
yeah.
There's a chance all 3 of these get
started.
filled in 24, right?
Yeah, like beginning of January is
Yeah,
our-
right.
would be ideal if we can make that happen. So.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to approve adding the 3 positions for the facilities custodial and building maintenance techs as presented today.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All right, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you, Roy.
Yeah, thanks, Roy. All right, so last, we have a presentation today, Colorado River District with Zane Kessler and Tom Gray. He's going to give us a board update. Are you coming with him, Jeff, or? All right. Let Zane do all the talking.
There you go. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Zane Kessler, Director of Government Relations for the Colorado River District.
Tom Graham, you're appointed representative on the district for Moffett County.
Appreciate you carving out some time for us today. I have no agenda, no formal presentation. This is part of my and our outreach at the district. Try to make it to each of our 15 counties once a year to just check in and have a conversation on what your water priorities are. A little bit more about us. I know you're familiar with us, but we do represent the 15 counties west of the Continental Divide that make up the Yampa, the White, the Gunnison, portions of the Green and the Dolores, and of course, the main stem of the Colorado River. We work our tails off to make sure that the water interests of our constituents, our shared constituents on the Western Slope, are represented and protected. And we do that through legal, technical, funding, and policy work. As Director of Government Relations, I spend a good amount of time down at the state capitol when they're in session and making sure that the West Slopes water is again represented and protected. But we do a lot of work here on the ground in Moffett County as well through technical, legal, and funding. Since 2020, when the district's voters moved to increase our mill levy, we increased it by a quarter of a mil. So we're consistently at the lower end of the property tax bill district wide, but we went from a quarter to half of a mil to a single mil. We have used that increased revenue to invest upwards of $667,000 in Moffett County water projects. We look forward to continuing that work, and that is through our community funding partnership, which is the branded name of that grant or funding assistance program. And yeah, we enjoy a very good working relationship with your staff and have enjoyed working with you all as commissioners and your predecessors on the board for 80 years. And so we just want to make sure we're checking in with you guys, hearing from you, having a conversation on water. I think one thing we believe at the district is that water brings us together, especially on the West Slope, where it is the tie that binds. It's the only reason we're here. And so we have challenges. We've obviously had a couple decades worth of sub-average precipitation and increased temperatures. We've got demands to the west in downstream states. We've got demands to the east. We really are, I think one of my predecessors at the River District eloquently called us the stretch and the rubber band. And we try to be dynamic. We're a team of 25 staff at the district. But I like to think we're a pretty, what's the word? Feisty bunch. You know, you put 25 of us up against Denver Water or Metropolitan of Southern California. I like to think that we do a pretty darn good job of protecting our water resources here. So again, no formal agenda. Wanted to talk to you all. This is what I call small P politics, just getting out in the district and seeing our elected officials and hearing from you. But before I ask for any comments or questions from you, I'll ask Director Gray if he's got anything to say.
No, good job, Zane. I guess one of the things, just because it's a public meeting, that I'm the happiest about that the River District has been a part of is using water and alkyd to augment flows in the Yampa. You know, we had our first ever call on the river in 2018. We alleviated the length of that call dramatically just by making some releases. Some of that, the money to do that, half of the money to do that comes from the new tax that the voters all passed. So that's a continuing program. And I think, you know, it benefits all users. It's for consumptive users, but the fish swim in it and the boaters float on it. So we've always lamented in this valley, we don't have a lot of storage, but up until we started some of these programs, we weren't using the storage we had. So I just want to highlight that because I'm not sure how many people in the community actually know that.
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that you all are well represented in Director Gray. He is actively engaged on our board and in the water community as a whole, on the roundtable through state initiatives and others. And so I think Moffett County is lucky to have Tom as a water watchdog, and we're lucky to have him on our board.
We feel the same. Anything else?
No, I guess I would flag for you on the federal side of things, we're watching closely the Farm Bill, which is important to a number of our shared constituents here. It does look like there's a path to a 1-year extension in the House's stopgap continuing resolution, which is good. We were all pretty nervous when we saw that Farm Bill expire. It's not the first time that a Farm Bill has expired on us. In fact, not a single Farm Bill this millennium has been passed on time. But the programs within that Farm Bill are important to our water users, our ag producers. Specifically, the NRCS programs have been a great source for us to use as we put money into projects, be it in Moffett County or anywhere on the Western Slope. The NRCS and the USDA typically are a good point of leverage for those dollars. We typically see about a 10x ratio or a 10x return on our investments through that community funding partnership. So that's $600,000 $667,000 that we put into Moffett County has been returned time and time over by being used as a catalyst for some of those state and federal, specifically the Farm Bill at the federal level programs. At the state level, we're going to have a busy legislative session. There are a lot of suggestions out there for ways to fix our water woes, and a lot of our job oftentimes is convincing legislators and others that may not be the best idea. We have policies and guiding documents in place that are intent on protecting the doctrine of prior appropriation and ensuring that ensuring that we're able to protect our water users and their ability to divert and put that water to beneficial use.
So I guess Zane kind of highlighted that with the low hydrology in the last few years especially has brought many solutions or proposals out of the woodworks for how some of this water, some water could be transferred, some things could be done. Normally, maybe opportunity for some people, but in our case, in the Western Slope in general, we view those fearfully usually. And you guys are probably aware there's a task force that was created during the last legislative session that's been meeting, and it was a bill that formed the task force. Here in Moffett County, Mike Camblin is the representative on that, and they're getting ready to probably make some recommendations. The duty of this task force is to make recommendations to the legislature for some solutions for the future. And I don't know if you guys have heard much about any of those solutions.
A little bit, yeah.
And so I guess before I'll let Zane kind of highlight a couple of things that are on the table right now, but what do you feel are your key and core values and interests here as those of us who are trying to represent Moffett County as you are? We want to be on the same page. So do you have any parameters or core philosophies that you want to talk about, or would you rather us do that after you hear from Zane, whichever?
Yeah, I think your core values and ours are pretty close to the same, right? Especially when we stick to water, right? We feel like we need to keep all the water we possibly can. I understand it passes through, but it shouldn't be just a pass through, right? Because we know that if it just passes through, who gets it? Right? Yeah. And we know how the game works, and we know how those guys love it just to pass through to benefit Nevada and, downstream. And so I think our core values are going to be the same as yours. We need to keep and use as much as we can. It's our water, right? Essentially, it's not theirs. And I understand that there's agreements and all those things. I get all that we have to pass through some things, but we need to fight for every drop we get, especially because we are in a drought, right?
Well, with that, I'll highlight, unless Commissioner Villard has anything to add, I'll give you a quick overview of two proposals that our representative on the drought task force has put forward. And they really relate to some of the threats that are posed to West Slope water users related to, it all started about 10 years ago with discussions around a demand management, which is essentially we're going to pay farmers not to farm, but we're going to pay water users not to use their water, to send that water downstream to help with Lake Powell levels. And we recognize that those kinds of programs may be needed at some point to prevent what's called a compact call on the big river, the interstate compact between the 7 Colorado River Basin states. So we recognize that they may be necessary at some point. But what we've been asking for are some pretty specific sideboards that give West Slope water users some protection to ensure that we're not going to become the augmentation zone for continued front range usage of Colorado River water, ensuring that any payments or any reduced use is voluntary, temporary, and compensated. ensuring that it's transparent and that it works just like any other government or water program out there in the state. And I think more importantly, ensuring that if we're going to ask farmers not to farm, if we're going to ask our towns and cities in Colorado to go without water so that we can send it to downstream states, it's got to be contingent upon those lower basin states actually reducing their use and closing the structural, what we call the structural deficit. I'm sorry to use water jargon, but if we're going to, again, ask our water users to go without and send that water downstream, we're not going to do it, or we're not going to not object if California, Arizona, and Nevada continue to overuse their allotment of water from the river in the way they have over the last 20 years. We see that as the reason that we're in this problem on the big river is attributable to lower basin overuse. If they had stayed within their legal allotments of water, we'd be sitting on an extra, I think, 10 to 14 million acre feet in Lake Powell today. Of course, drought in the upper basin plays a role. They've got a demand problem down there. We've been seeing a supply problem up here. But we're working to be as flexible as we can and working to hold the line to make sure, again, that the western slope of Colorado specifically isn't the sacrifice zone, and that if we're asked to participate in these programs, that it be a shared burden. We're not going to do it while the Front Range sits idly by. We need equitability. We need proportionality in how we share the burden on this. And so I think that's important to our shared constituents in Moffat County. I think it's important to all water users on the western slope, is that we hold that line.
So I'm not sure, I guess I'll just jump out here. One of the things that's under discussion right now in this task force, and it has to do with what we all know, is that Tri-State and their power generation is going to cease by 2030, or that's the current way it looks. And what's going to happen to that sizable amount of water that gets used for power generation? There's a proposal in this task force, and I don't think it's mature yet. So I'll let Zane talk a little bit more about it, but I want to say, I don't think it's time to take a position, because I don't know that we have enough facts about the proposal, but I would like to get your feedback, and Zane, I'm sure with you, on the general concept.
Yeah, thank you, Director Gray. I had highlighted kind of the components of the two proposals that the River District has put forward. We have seen a proposal from XL Energy and Tri-State that would, I think it's a two-pronged approach. The first would be to allow them to keep their water until 2050, what they're calling the energy transition period, without fear of abandonment or reduction in that water right. During that time, they would, the proposal as it stands, and I will note, I spoke with Tri-State's representative just last night, and she noted that this is quickly evolving. It's likely to change. They're working to, they still need to do quite a bit of community outreach. This is really just words on paper at the moment. So I would expect that you all will hear from them sooner than later. But the second prong of their approach would be able to use that water for critical needs in the lower reach of the Yampa. So to essentially shepherd that water down to the endangered fish or for environmental recreational needs. There's also, that would be their surface water. They do have some storage water that we would like to work with them to get creative and figure out how we make sure that the ag producers and the pumpers along the river are able to continue pumping, and that water isn't just shepherded past their head gate. So the River District's engaged in the conversation. I think Director Gray will play an important role in that conversation, both directly with the proponents, but also on our board. And so it is not time for a position at this point, but I do want to flag it for you as something that's coming down the pike, and it likely will see some attention at the state capitol this year.
And what their conversation that they're having, just the surface conversation, it would be them having to break the law, essentially.
the law would be changed to allow.
Of course,
that use,
because
yes.
that's how it works. If I'm gonna break the law, I'm gonna get the law changed. You know, so, and just so we're clear, I think that, if they're gonna send the water down for environmental, whatever, they're not doing that for free. Right? They're taking our assets, making money on them, and then spending them in one of these 4 states that's not in our place. Yeah. Right? And so, just even in the conversation, which you're a lot more probably open-minded than I am, just in the conversation, I think Tri-State won't come to us and have a conversation, and Jeff could probably, or Tom, correct me, because they know our stance. Like, we've been for at least 3 or longer than that, but the 3 years that I've been commissioner, a little over 3 years, that, or a little under 3 years, is that we've been asking them, what are you gonna do with your water? It shouldn't go down there. I mean, you know, if you're gonna ask farmers not to farm, are you gonna ask recreation not to recreate? Are you going to ask, you know, cities to not have water? Are you gonna, you know, fair's fair, right? And what brings the best benefit to our communities is the big deal, in my opinion, anyway. And so,
I think those are all valid concerns. I would note that the increasing the timeline, essentially changing the abandonment statute for these Colorado energy utilities to hold on to that water through the transition does keep that water local. It does allow for some time to think through what's next, because we may get to 2045, 2050 and realize wind and solar aren't going to cut it. We're going to need something else that's going to require water. And so I think philosophically, yes, it does require changing statutes, but philosophically, there may be a long-term interest in keeping that water locally as opposed to it potentially being abandoned or reduced in use. But I do think it's something that this county should be aware of and should be prepared to engage on. And I have no doubt that your staff will be engaged as well.
Commissioner Wheeler?
I don't have anything.
I have one more question, I guess. If it does get to there, right? And locally, we oppose that. I mean, is there a possibility that you win that opposition? See, that's the hard part, right? I mean, do you see that happening? I mean, if we have the River District and all, you know, counties and cities and agencies and all these things there, I mean, do you see that in your crystal ball that it's even a win situation?
I think it's probably too early to tell, to be honest. We don't know what the final legislative proposal looks like. We don't, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done for this thing to be ready for prime time. Just like our proposals that we're putting forward through the task force, still a lot of work to be done. I will say, we've seen this on the Western Slope and we've experienced this at the Capitol. Oftentimes, especially related to water, it pays dividends to be at the table and working to make sure that those sideboards that provide the safety and protection for our water users are in place, as opposed to, you know, there are oftentimes, and our board grapples with this often, we see a bad idea and we just want to kick it.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, I think it always pays dividends to stay at the table as long as possible and try to get as much as we can. So
100%. 100%.
So I guess I also had a long conversation yesterday evening with the Tri-State Representative Jackie Brown on water. And and I encouraged her and she didn't need that much encouragement. I said, you need to not let all this talk be going on around what you're thinking without coming to the commissioners face to face and telling them. And she said, we're going to do that. She's promised me. We just don't have it to the final stage yet. And we don't want to talk before we're ready and have it, what our proposal is going to be. So I think in this case, they're going to be here. I'm going to make sure not just that I have that much power, but we're going to keep talking until they come and talk to you.
Okay.
I think I'll give you an example. When this task force was being formed, the legislation passed to form it, the River District outlined 7 things that were the talking points that were just non-negotiables, I guess you would call them, or if they're negotiable, there better be a good reason. And with Jeff, and I'd be glad to work with you, I would, and I know the land use board last night talked about some things. I think it'd be really useful to come up with something like that. This is the parameters we stand on. We won't entertain things that doesn't include these parameters. And for instance, one of the top one on the River District was we're not going to support any reduction of use in the upper basin in Colorado until the lower basin gets their overuse curtailed. We're just not going to go there. I think that's a great example of the kind of parameters that I'd be glad to help with you. And I know Jeff would form those so that when Tri-State comes, they know that already there's some parameters they need to live with if they're going to make a proposal. Does that sound?
Yep, no, it's great. And I think it's a valid point, you know, you want to be at the table, you know, saying that you're if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, right? And so you want to be at the table to have those conversations and to do those things. I hope we do get to have those conversations. I think one of the frustrating things when it comes to water is, you know, Tri-State has a lot of water. And we asked them for like 300 acre feet. Like it's not even gonna touch them. It's not even they won't even know it's gone, right? And then absolutely no, we're not giving for our augmentation plan. So instead we had to go buy augment water to create a plan when they could have just, they won't even know. No one would have known. But when you talk water to them, it's an absolute, right? So it's hard for you not to have an absolute, but valid point. And I agree with you 100%. We got to be at the table. We have to. Jeff, did you have something?
Well, I'm glad that the plan's gonna be continuing to evolve, but when you talk about changing the law to give them 10 extra years to abandon water, they have a lot of ways other than changing the law to hold on to that water for that extra time. They can do due diligence on it long after. I mean, they could talk about future energy and do some due diligence feasibility studies, all kinds of things to not get that water abandoned. There's many tools that can be used other than changing the law to say that energy companies can hang on to it longer than everybody else can. So I just bring that up as a point that needs to be part of the discussion.
For sure. Thank you. Good. Anything?
No.
Anything else?
No, I
Just appreciate the time. Appreciate
yeah,
the conversation.
You guys carving out time on the agenda. I know you're busy and always like coming up here from Glenwood Springs and you know where Tom's at. I'll give you a card before I walk out and make sure you know where I'm at as well.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for representing us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, so that is the last thing on the agenda today. Appreciate your time. This meeting will be adjourned.